Welcome everyone. My name is Ivana Passamani, and I will present you the topic of perceptive variations of urban space, colors and architectonic volumes as temporary images. I want to ask you, is color a boundary? Is material of construction a boundary? When we study about building materials and their colors, we can recognize the local cultural identity. But what happens when building materials that are the surface of a building are temporary? We study the perceptive phenomena, the visual repercussions that occur when a temporary equipment such as scaffolding is installed in the permanent chromatic layout of a historic landscape or in the changeable suburban areas. Normally, color and matter of the surface of a building are a permanent boundary. A construction site introduces a new temporary boundary. Scaffolding is a new temporary boundary between built-up space and empty urban space. Quoting Wikipedia, scaffolding, also called scaffold or staging, is a temporary structure used to support a work crew and materials. We propose to consider the main characteristics that are functional, temporary, bulky, noisy, colorful, changeable, ugly, to study the perceptive mutations caused in urban spaces by the temporary addition of scaffolding. Afterwards, we can think about their possible different uses and values. Can we say that public spaces, where scaffolding exists, are similar to non-new? Is scaffolding similar to non-new? The non-new are defined as spaces without historical character or particular identity. They characterize the present day and, above all, areas of movement, as defined by Mark Orge. Scaffolding is a tangible place and, at the same time, a perceptual place. Very interesting is to think about the vantage points. The usual one is scaffolding seen from an urban area. This vantage point is used to communicate informative, advertising and cultural messages. The second one is less usual. Construction site seen from scaffolding. In this case, scaffolding is a place of awareness where a vantage point is proposed within a historic or contemporary building, visitable through guided tours. Another vantage point is urban space seen from scaffolding. This is explored mostly by the authorized personnel, and it is filtered by the scaffold sheets. We can also affirm that scaffolding is a place of communication that can be informative, spontaneous, or commercial, as seen in these examples. The scaffolding impact depends on the design and features of their sheets. Actually, there are many different solutions, so we can determine some typologies. In this systematization, we look beyond the typological fact. We think about the feature of the scaffolding as a visual boundary between the outside and the inside of the urban space. We propose new interpretations, new points of view to consider the boundary between scaffolding and urban space. The boundary of the large surfaces can be an artistic challenge, a possible chromatic intervention on the face of the city. The boundary becomes three-dimensional. It is like a monumental overhanging sculpture. It cuts out and redesigns the urban scene and the sky. The boundary is a living and pulsating surface because the scaffold covers move with the wind. The building seems to breathe. The boundary is a surface that lights up with the sun and can become reflective. Becoming aware of the various expressive potentials of these structures can pave the way to new suggestions, using visual and cultural stimulus and challenges within the historical landscapes. If we compare the evident impermanence of the scaffolding with the permanence of the historical facades, we realize the importance of the restoration process. Another interpretation can be to accept and to amplify the economic advantage that underlies the restoration or regeneration process. The presence of the scaffolding helps to think about the time before or after the restoration. In the contemporary era, scaffolding entered in the urban landscape as an actor in communication on the urban stage. Scaffolding represents in the same time a boundary and a link. A very meaningful example is the temporary installation in Bruxelles. The building of the museum was covered by a very large scaffold sheet. This opened as a curtain on the famous Empire des Lumières painting by Magritte. This is a site-specific scaffolding that shows the specific role that this type of structures can have in the city. Thank you for your attention. If you're interested in more information, check out my website www.ivanapassamani.com.